You are listening to the Global CTE Podcast with your host, Sylvester Chisom.
Welcome, my friends, to another episode of the Global CTE Podcast. I am your host, Sylvester Chisom. This is the place where I interview the best, the brightest, the movers, the shakers, the innovators, the people who are really making a difference in the education space. Today is no different. I have my good friend, Barbara Bray, here. Now, let me tell you about Barbara. Barbara is a true pioneer as it relates to education innovation. She's a coach, teacher, writer, disruptor, risk taker, learning designer, connector, and visionary. She calls herself a creative learning strategist where others call her a change maker. Now, Barbara actually created the first version of Google Classroom, It actually was called My ecoach. As early as 1999, she was bringing educators together. This is way before Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or Pinterest. She's what some people call a digital pioneer. She also runs the Rethinking Learning Podcast, where she captures stories from people who inspire her, and is also the author of Define Your Why. Barbara, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you, Sylvester. This is that I sound like a pretty cool person. I don't know.
No, listen, you are amazing, and the work that you have put in to touch the education space, serving generations year on year on year, like is groundbreaking and still remaining innovative. I think it's just impressive, and it's something that we all should aspire to be like as it relates to moving the needle forward to best serve our students. And I just want to say thank you for all of that. But yeah, let's talk about it. Okay. I mean, really quickly, like your origin story. How do you get here? How do you get here?
Well, I did some, let's say I went down an interesting path. I started in a different field, found it wasn't for me, got hurt, realized teaching was it was what touched my heart. And so became a teacher, then realized I'm really good as a coach. So I worked in the San Francisco Bay Area, mostly in Oakland Unified. I also love technology, so I was the kind of person that was curious when the first this or that came out. I had to take it apart and put it back together again. So I ended up working with CTAP, California Technology Assistant Project, writing grants, getting grants, working with schools around the Bay Area. And then I started a consulting business, and it grew and ended up with a lot of coaches around the country. And like you said, I started a platform called My ecoach. And that was a long time ago. To me, it was a great way to connect. It was a place you could book courses. It was a lot wonderful. I just recently transferred it to K12leaders.com because I'm on a different journey now. And so now I love my podcast. I started that in 2017. It's grown. I have reflections. I have lots of wonderful people who share their stories. So some of those stories are in my book, Define Your Why, you mentioned. I have two books before that. They're personalized learning. One is Make Learning Personal, and the other is How to Personalize Learning. And so I have just lots of stuff, Sylvester.
I know you do. And that's why I was so excited to talk to you, just to lift up your curiosity and your spirit of collaboration, and celebrating other people. But since you brought it up, I'm curious, what was your thinking around creating that e-learning platform, like My ecoach, like the origin? What problem were you trying to solve?
It's a fun story.
Go.
I was hired as a consultant with my team for Oakland Schools Unified in the Bay Area, and they asked me to teach the teachers Dreamweaver. So they'd have a place there was nothing out there at that time. And I can't remember what, like 1996, around 97, there was nothing available other than one or two, but they didn't do what they needed. So teaching teachers how to actually FTP at night when they're so busy as it is. We spent 2 weeks teaching all these teachers, and Sunday night before they had to launch, 12 of them were on my doorstep crying. Like, no way, I can do this. So I went to the district, and since I was working downtown, I said, we need to make something. Well, we don't have the resources. I said, what if I do it? It'll be mine. But it was that. And that's how it got started.
Really? See, I'm always curious the origin stories of these things. And like as it grew and developed, how many teachers ended up participating or using the platform?
Well, we had at one point, probably, it's not millions. It was like 100,000 at one point, maybe. I was working all over the country, in other states, some other countries too. And people were using it in different ways. I had coaches would use it because it had coaching strategies. You can develop an individual learning plan. There were surveys, quizzes, there was website builders, blogs, and there was so much. And there's ways to connect, and there's a library of resources that people could share. And standards. We had all the standards. I mean, come on, it was crazy. I don't even know how in the world I did it. But it was one of those where it grew and grew and grew, but it was mine. So one of the issues is, I think at one point, another country wanted to make their ecoach. And when I realized, this could really be open source, I could change it, I didn't know how to do that. And I had my team and tried, and wish I had done that now, because that would have been so much easier if other people helped develop it. So that's why now it's a wonderful group called K-12 Leaders, and they're coming up with all new ideas. They even came up with a way to have coaching one-on-one or small group with video, like I'm doing with you right now.
Interesting.
And so I didn't have those resources. I mean, at the time we were creating from scratch. There was nothing out there. So that's the other, is now there's so many tools you can put together, and it's so much easier. So, and there was no mobile.
That's why when you told me that, I was like, wow. When you're like, yeah, we had thousands and thousands of users on this, I was like, really, that was so ahead of its time in terms of when you think about the Google Classrooms or the Canvases or Teachables, these learning platforms that exist, that are pretty prominent today. But I want to jump around a little, just because there's so much to unpack with you. Your book, Define Your Why, and I know that's a fusion of stories of people that inspire you. Like, talk to me about your book and like what inspired you to write that.
Well, I've needed to find my why. And in doing that, I developed a workshop around it. And I can't even remember what year, but I went to the South by Southwest EDU conference and did a presentation on Define Your Why, and brought in Ikigai, which is a term on how you can discover your passion and what you're good at and all of that. And all of a sudden I became the Ikigai lady. I was walking around and everyone's going, this is so great. Do you have a book about it? Do you have a book about it? It was all about like that. And then I started my podcast and decided I needed to get the stories. And when I got the stories and the connections and realized purpose was a big part of it, that's what the book became. It became my workshop ideas. It became the stories that people shared with me that didn't share with me online. They were some different stories. And it was just it just came to be. It's just
Hmm.
been wonderful.
I love that you mentioned Ikigai. I just had Don Wettrick on the
Oh,
podcast.
Don's he was on my show.
Oh, really? Okay, okay. Yeah, Don's awesome.
He's
And
great.
and I know you two probably jammed out about Ikigai because he was talking
No,
about
he was on before.
really okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He probably
Yeah.
took it from me. No, he didn't. He's so
Don,
amazing.
if you're listening, but no, we were talking about that, and I think that's something really to lift up in education. Talk to me more about how do you see that playing out in the world of education, that Ikigai philosophy.
Ikigai. Well, I feel that a lot of the problems with schools or organizations is that they may have a mission statement that
Mhm.
the people that are part of that community, the organization, or the school may have different purposes for being there. There's no alignment of the whys. And so I wanted to show that the only way you're going to get an organization to work, cohesively is to really get to know the people that work there. And let's say also your students. I mean,
Mhm.
everybody should have a purpose for being here. And that's what Ikigai does. It gives you um I don't know if Don mentioned this, but it's the Japanese concept for the meaning of life.
Mhm.
And it's your reason to get up every morning. If you're going to school just to get through school, or if you're a teacher doing this because it's a job and you're not that excited about it, you're going to burn out. You're going to get stressed. And so I always felt that it's important for everybody to really know their why and see how it's aligned to the mission statement or the why of that organization. And that piece I've done a lot of consulting on that with people, is how do you pull them together so we can all work together and we're passionate about what we do.
How do you do you have anything tangible there for how do we connect our whys? Like in an organizational environment, like how do I connect my personal why, or better yet, as a leader, how do you get the team to connect their personal whys to the mission of the organization?
I think first we need to connect to each other. So I've done workshops with Story Exchange from Narrative 4. It's where um, you get to talk with one other person. Like if I just did this with you, but I'm not going to do it
Okay.
right now, but I would listen to your story very carefully and you would listen to mine. And then I would say, hi, I'm Sylvester Chisom, and I would be you, and I would repeat what you said so you could hear me. You see, that is hard. We tend to listen to respond. We don't really learn to listen. So what happens is we might be part of an organization running around doing what we think we need to do, and we're right. We're so right that we aren't willing to really listen to anyone else. So I've done this workshop many times and people start crying when someone really hears them. And that's the piece. First, we have to hear each other. Then we have to have a voice in the mission statement. The problem is it was usually top down, given to us. And it might not be what I believe in, but I'm there. Does that make sense? So I want
Mhm.
even students really need to have a voice in the school, especially when it involves what they're going to do and where they're going to go and what they're going to become. And that doesn't happen. A lot of times we're just given a curriculum and they never get a say in what's happening.
I find that so interesting with what you that last part, what you just said, how if everything is supposed to be student centered and caring about the kids, but they're usually not involved in the creation or curation process to really get their feedback until it's time for the implementation,
Yeah.
you know. And I find I'm I'm blessed enough to have I have a 16-year-old in my household, right? And so he's involved in a lot of programs and school things. And I'm always curious, like, how'd you enjoy that presentation, or some big shot at some company is talking to the class, and he's like, it could have been better. And I'm like, and I'm always like curious, like why? He's like, well, they just talked at us. They didn't let us do anything. Or his feedback is, it's like if they just changed one small nuance, it would have went over so much better with the students. But because they're not usually a part of the feedback loop before something is delivered, that part
Mhm.
is missing, you know?
Well, I used to love coaching in the schools. And one of the things that I always try to do is how can we let go? What can we do to get our students so they own part of it and they're co-learners in the process? So that's like part of my two books, the personalized learning books. We shared, my co-author and I shared some of the strategies that people did, but that was, some time ago. Now there's a lot of that going on. It's just that we don't hear about it. And now we seem to be, I don't know, I don't want to say we're going backwards, but sometimes we are. And we really need our kids to be on board, and we need our teachers to feel like they have a voice also. So what happens is, if we're just given a prescriptive curriculum, like you're, even when PD, I used to
Right.
do PD, and then I would go, oh, I hate this. I'm up in front and talking to them and they're not involved. And, I really want everyone who is there to feel that it's meaningful, relevant, personal to them. And if we are going to do that to teachers, we should be doing that with students, not to them, with them.
With them, not to, but with. I like that. Is from those early books around personalized learning, any best practices you want to lift up and share to help personalize learning?
Well, first get to know your kids. I do universal design for learning. That's one
Okay.
of the main components of both those books. Is how do you get to know them, and you start with the why. And that was from CAST. I don't know if you know the Center for Accessible Technology, but that's
Okay.
how they design universal design for learning. And so they have three principles: the why of learning, the what of learning, and the how. And when I learned about that, it was mainly, we don't take that time to figure out, and why are you here? What is your why? And that kind of thing. So that's why my why came so big. I realized we don't take the time to really build the relationships. And when you get them to feel really comfortable, they have a say in what happens. So we put in some examples
Mm-hmm.
um, from different educators around the world. I was lucky to go to New Zealand and work there and see unbelievable classrooms with 100 kids in it and 4 adults and sometimes more adults. And the rooms, the way they were set up, I went to 20 schools across the country and
Mm-hmm.
thinking, what's wrong with us here?
You know
Why?
what, Barbara, break that down, because I think that's an interesting experience.
Yeah.
When you see education outside of the country, I've had my guy Petri Elon from Finland, and
Ooh.
talking about their approach of putting the skill first, and how you get there, how I get there, it's
Mhm.
totally up to us, but that is what we're working toward. Or some of the work they're doing in Singapore, some different countries. But tell me more, in New Zealand, what did you see that was unique and stood out?
Well, what stood out was learners were learning on their own. They would be, even little preschoolers were doing year-long passion projects. Every student would sit down. I was the kind that go, come on, Barb, we got to go. I go, no, I'm going to sit with the kids. I'm on the floor. And
Uh-huh.
as an example, I was with some year 7 students who were working on their passion projects. And they do them all year long. They have to find the mentors, they have to find the resources, they have to do everything about it. And then they do like a capstone project at the end, and they can bring their mentors in. One example was a young lady who wanted to learn Greek because her family's from Greece. And so she asked I think her uncle to be her mentor. She wanted to learn the Greek food. She wanted to learn more about the customs. And then at the end, she was going to have them come in and actually do a dance and wear the costumes and share the food and do all of that as her, her capstone project at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And so everyone had some kind of passion project that they worked on their own. They also had adults who were there just to support. They also had a maker space. They had small spaces. They had areas where a teacher could meet with one or a few students or multiple places. So kids were on their own. They all had technology. They would sit over here and let me just show you what I'm working on. I thought, why is it that we think that we have to be the experts? Our kids, all they have to do is go online, and then they need to know how to do that and how to figure out what's real or not now,
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that we were put in a place as educators to think we have to be the ones accountable and responsible for the learning. And that has messed us up. And that's kind of how it's been. And we got to change that.
Wow.
I'm sorry, I get a little carried away.
No, keep going. Let's keep going. I'm enjoying that conversation around what do you hear a lot now? The guide on the side, being here to be of support, but not feeling like you have to have all the answers. But
Yeah.
let's uncover, let me help support you in uncovering the answers. I like that. So do they do if they do a passion project like every year? Or
I think so, because but I've seen this in Kentucky. I worked in different parts of Kentucky where they had 10 innovation school districts. The state decided that they would do these grants and give them, I think for 5 years, they could do without standards, without tests, whatever they decided. They wouldn't get a lot of money, but they'd have the ability. So there's one is Buddy Berry Eminence School District, where they have a school where the innovation hub is in the middle, and every student does a passion project every year. And the teachers start, I think, with their passion first, and then they take it. So I'm finding that people are doing these things. It's just a matter of, how do you know what you like? I mean, when you're young, you might like, one thing. When you're a little older, you might say, woo, I really don't want to do that. But if I'm going to make a skateboard company, I guess what I need to learn is math, finances, how to market, how to, there's all these things. They realize why they need to learn these things. You see, that why keeps coming back.
No, the why is everything, and it really is at the heart of everything. But like you said, we usually don't start with the why in education when we should. And if you do, then it honestly, I feel like it makes the educator's job so much easier to uncover, like, okay, these are your interests, your passions. Let's teach through that. Let's try to find a way to teach through that.
Well, we should do it with our teachers so they can model it. You see, what happens is, first day, I mean, a weeks before school starts, they're spending all their time, their energy to, fix the room and come up with the lesson plans and all of this. And all I can think of is, wow, that's so much work, and the kids don't like it. So I remember working in one of the I worked in a middle school in Oakland where they said, you get to do kind of what you want. Go ahead and play, which was
Okay.
fun. And we decided we would take the sixth grades for the team. We had core. And we asked them, what if we don't put anything on the walls and put all the furniture in the middle and ask the kids what they would like? What would they like on the walls? What would they like? And how would they like to design the room? And they said, well, we have 90-minute blocks. So what do you do with 4 different classrooms? I said, what if you have the classrooms compete on what would be, and they come up with ideas and then they all agree and they go, okay, we'll do it. And the kids were so excited. It was amazing. They came up with a plan that they all agreed to. I mean, just think about that. They all had a reading area. They had a little library. They all had the desks some had them like they wanted a U shape, some wanted it in groups. And they said, why can't we move them around? They came up with it. You see what I mean? And I'm thinking we can do this if we just ask the kids.
Yeah.
We don't even, I worked in a school in Hawaii that had Reggio Emilia schools. And the little preschoolers were, Reggio Emilia is amazing. And they're starting to look at, maybe we need this all the way through. You make the environment. And I was there when the kids came back from being on the beach, and they were so angry because they were bulldozing trash into the sand, and they were yelling at each other and saying, we gotta call the president. No, we gotta. And they were like so excited. They talked to the adults to write a letter to the mayor. And I'm like 3 and 4-year-olds. Come on. You see what I mean? If we give them real world experiences and let them generate the curriculum, it's called generative curriculum, come up with some of it. I can go on and on because I just love some of the experience I've seen and some of the stories, and a lot of it, the kids did it.
Yeah, one of the top preschools my friend runs here in St. Louis is they use the Reggio Emilia, that curriculum of isn't it like allowing the kids to play first and then trying to teach through the play, like understanding their interest through
It's
play,
a little
right?
different. It's the environment's the third educator. So what happens is you have like blocks over here, you have places for climbing, you have art. They'll find where they want to go, and a teacher, a parent would observe, and they might sit down with them to experiment. There's very little with 3 and 4-year-olds, there's very little teaching. It's more watching them, because play-based learning is amazing at that age if you let them go. If you don't just try, you can show them some things, but the whole idea is that you're letting them be kids and you're letting them experiment and be curious.
What does you clearly know more about this topic than I do. Does that move out to middle school, high school, or if it doesn't, what do you think that would look like?
Well, they've actually started. There was a Reggio High School in San Francisco, and there's bringing in some of the components of it. It means look at the way your spaces are. Are you going to cramp 40 kids in a room and there's no room to walk around or whatever? Are you really going to do that? If you are, then why are you going to have desks? Let's think about it. So it's like the space really matters. And also, what is it about just starting the day with, okay, open your books. We're going to go to chapter 2. Why can't we change the way we react and interact with our kids? And Reggio does a lot of that, where you're observing, you're reflecting on it, you're talking about it, so you're noticing the learning. There's a lot.
you're doing it so well right now. I'm like, this is exactly why I wanted to talk to you, because you just your depth and experience, like you've seen so much, so many different areas and areas of innovation, pockets of innovation. It's kind of moving me to your podcast, um, Rethinking Learning. What's one of your favorite episodes?
Oh, I can't. There are too many. I really can't. They're all so, everyone is unique. And what happens is I do a pre-podcast where I can really talk and, and sometimes they'll share something and I go, "Are you want to put that up? Because that's pretty personal." And many times they say yes. But I really want to know before, because I want to get it up. I also ask them to create the post that goes with it, because I said, this is your place now to show you off, because I just think you're amazing. And I've had so many amazing people on sometimes I had to pinch myself. Really? You want to be on my show? Oh my gosh. It's like that, So I don't want to pick any over anyone, because they're all, I, in fact, I have more coming that I'm just so excited about.
Excited about. Yeah. Any trends to lift up that you're noticing as we're thinking about the future of education and what that looks like? Are you starting to notice any patterns or trends that in the direction that we may be moving in?
Well,
Anything
we
stand
have to
out?
change. I got trends I have a 15-year-old grandchild, so
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
looking at I'm looking at how smart they are and how we have to change. We have to change the way we teach. And I'm looking at what's happening in society too. That's another thing. I'm starting another podcast, so I'll have to tell you about that one.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. We have to be able to have kids work together, collaborate, connect in multiple ways, because they're digital natives. They use technology. They don't even understand why we would even use email now, because they don't use that. And I think the thing is, we have to really understand this new person, these people. They're unique. They really need to be involved in society. And we need to show them that they have a voice. So I see the trend is they're going to get louder. They're going to get louder. They're going to start making noises. When they're 18, they're going to vote. They're going to change some things, because they're not, I think they just do school because they have to, but I think they're going to start making noises. I don't know if you're noticing that too, but that's what I'm seeing.
No, I think this is especially you're right. They're more vocal. They have they definitely have a big heart for what is happening in the world around them, and feeling that they should have a say in how things are happening, especially that impact them, and a greater concern about the environment. I really feel like that, like,
Mhm.
and a greater concern for other people, or that's important to them. Now, I don't know if I want to say greater concern, but it is clear that it's important. Like when I listen to my 16-year-old talk and the things that his friends are concerned about, um, the global perspective as well, because they have access to so much more information around them, um, and they want to do something. I think that's, for me, that's the biggest one, is like,
Mhm.
we talk project-based learning, experiential, getting them out of the classroom. Listen, I'm with you. It's like not a should we, it's you have to. If you want to keep their attention, little principle, teaching, lesson, framework, but they want to do it. They want to learn through doing. At least that's something I'm seeing.
Well, I mean, I bring in community service learning, which is really important, but I also feel that, because I've worked with high schools where they have advisories, but they also have apprenticeships and internships. They've worked it into the program. So kids have experience while they're still in school. They get out of school. I think it's really important for them to know what that learning isn't just in school, it's all the time. I'm constantly learning, and I've been out of school a long time. And so I think one of the concerns I have is we need to talk about how we talk to each other. So my new podcast is called Real Talk with Barbara and Nicole. It's all about authenticity in a polarized society. And so we're working on, what does it mean to be authentic? What does it mean what is the truth? How do you know how to talk to someone you don't agree with? Because right now, there's a lot of people who really don't know how to talk to each other. And this is the things that I'm really concerned about is these kids are smart, but they don't feel listened to, valued, respected, seen, or heard. We gotta do that. We gotta figure it out because they're going to come back at us the wrong way.
Yeah. I love that. I love the concept of the new podcast. Yeah, I think it's gonna be really impactful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Barbara. Let's talk a little CTE. Your your thoughts on how do we this is something that has been like a big conversation I'm having across the board with CTE people is like, how do we get more people to be excited about the opportunities that exist, like post-secondary, that are connected to career tech education?
I think it depends on how it's designed.
Mhm.
I've seen some CTE programs where you're trying to teach, marketing, but you're not actually letting them do marketing. You know what I mean? It's like, I know that you talked about Don Retrick, and he knows a whole bunch about marketing. And I
Right.
mean, my wonder is how much are the kids, like if they design a business, um, how do they actually get to be involved with that business? I'll give you an example. I worked at McClymonds High School, which is in Oakland, and the kids there was a group that had to come up with a business, and they wanted to know if there are any Black farmers in the area. And they found some in Fresno, which I don't know if you know, California is pretty far away, but they found them. And they talked to them, and the farmers said, we have no way to market our goods. We need to find some places. So the kids figured out a business for them. So it's not just that they started a business, they helped market the business. You see what I mean? What they did is they worked with the school district, so the blacktop, the parking area, was available on the weekends for the farmers. See?
They made like their own small micro farmers market there on the blacktop.
Well, the farmers did it, but they helped them design it. So what I'm saying is, it's not about just starting a business, it's knowing all the pieces of what is it that you could do that would be the best. And it means, what is an interest? What are you really interested in? Let's go see if there's someone out there that might even have a problem that you could help solve. And the kids they want to make a difference. They want to make a difference, and they may not be able to just start a business or do a business right now, but they might be able to be part of a business to learn some of the intricacies of it. It was one of those where I went, yeah.
I'm loving that idea too, and the connections, the interdisciplinary connections of marketing, entrepreneurship, touching the durable skills, critical thinking, agriculture. I love that. I just love that whole I love that story. That's a beautiful story. But
And that
what
was a
I'm hearing.
long time ago. They don't have it anymore. I'm just saying, it's like I've been
Mhm,
around a long time,
mhm,
and there's all these stories, and I'm just thinking we need to talk about them and bring them back and figure out
mhm,
where is it happening, and so show off more about what they can do, and so kids have an idea. You mean I could do that kind of thing?
mhm, wow. What I'm hearing, more real world experiential opportunities, allowing the kids, students to have hands-on experiences with the concepts, not just surface level touch points.
Yeah, I mean, because every kid is doing in high school service learning, but a lot of times it's assigned to them. It's not something they want. So I'm
Mhm,
saying that how can we change that so there is a way that it helps them build those durable skills, which I know
mhm.
about. America Succeeds. Tim
Yes.
Taylor is on my show too. So I know you mentioned that before. So it's those durable skills that we don't have. I mean,
Mhm.
teachers don't even know about this. When I mention it, they don't understand how those could be, integrated into the curriculum. I mean, we could be teaching these skills all along, starting really young.
And it's right. And the workforce is clearly looking for them. And it just helps you be a better person all around if you understand like things like metacognition, like how to think about your thinking and
Hmm.
critical thinking, like all these things that this will help you be a better person in relationships and in work. So that 100%. All right, Barb. Final question. I want to center this. Still stay on that CTE spot. I ask all my guests this: what is your vision for the future of career tech education? Any thoughts on
Um, well, I'm having Elliot Washer on my show, who wrote, he co-founded Big Picture Learning, and he wrote a new book, Learning to Leave. I
that?
think we need to look and read his book.
Okay.
I think the issue I'm finding is we don't understand the importance of how much is in the community around us that could really help all of us learn,
Mhm.
and how to bring in partners. And I think we could be doing much, much more of that. It's not just community schools where you bring in it means that the kids are going out into the community and learning and figuring out ways that they can actually make a difference. So I'm going to bring up, if I can remember, I think it's Howard County up in South Dakota. I think either North Dakota, South Dakota.
Mhm.
They had nothing at the school. The whole town was falling apart, whole
Okay.
town. And so the kids were scared because people were moving. So the kids went and said, what if we help design the community? They said, if we can save our town. And the kids got involved. They got a bowling alley. They got, they figured out ways to bring in enough revenue to keep the town going so the school would stay. Can you imagine if we got the kids involved in some of solving real issues? I mean, think of crime, think of, pollution, think of all these issues. I mean, I'm a teach SDGs ambassador. So why aren't we teaching the goals, the UN goals, so they can
Mhm.
actually look at them globally and actually work on them locally?
Mhm.
That's the piece that I think CTE is missing, is we're not making things relevant enough and meaningful for them in their own communities. So
Mhm.
there's that. I don't know if they like it, but
Great, great answer. Great answer. Man, like I could talk to you for hours, Barb. I really could. Like you such a wealth of knowledge. You just brought it up. I know I would say that was my last question, but I have to ask about the SDGs. Like I'm quality education, global goal number 4. Like that's where I really try to hang my hat with all the stuff that I'm doing with curriculum and work and CTE. But how do we, any best practices for those who want to teach those global goals? Any thoughts around that?
Well, there's so many lessons online free. I mean,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
just right now, climate action 13,
Mm-hmm.
the goal 13, everyone's going to be impacted. Everyone, especially our kids, it's their future. We need them to be involved and at least be aware of it. And there's all these lessons that are already embedded with they call it the world's largest lesson. It's a gigantic library of activities around the world, and you can connect with others around the world. See, we're so insulated. We're so in silos. We even have our grade levels are in silos. We don't even have integrated programs. And I did something in Tampa where we ended up doing integrated cross-curricular projects, 6-week, 6 science projects. And there were 6 of them, and they worked like kindergarten, kindergarten, 6th grade and 10th grade worked together. And they would pick one of the topics, and then the kids and the teachers would all work together. One is weather. They ended up making and Tampa's pretty big, so they had their own TV station. So the kindergartners would do the weather report. The 6th graders created the weather station, and the 10th graders actually helped write the scripts and did the things with it was amazing, all of that. And so why is it that we think that kids are, if you're an 8th grader, you're an 8th grader? You know what I mean? You can work with any age, because when you get out there in the real world, they're all ages, all types. And so why are we doing that? That's why when I worked in New Zealand and saw those 100 kids together, they weren't together. There were some over here, some over there, some under a desk. Why don't we look at the real world and see what happens? And I've been at Google, I've worked at Apple. Why don't we make it look like Apple and Google? Why don't we make the environments where they can play? Give them some chance. You see what I mean? Let's really rethink school. Think CTE different. I can go on, but I bet we're running out of time.
Part two coming soon. No, wow, that's heavy. That's heavy. I have heard of some schools doing that, like working with different grade levels, but you're right. We silo off in so many, in content, in grade level. You're so right about that. Wow. Like, yes.
I got to stay around so I can make some of these changes, or at least see them.
You're doing it. You're doing it, Barbara. With that being said, for anyone who wants to connect with you to bring you in for a keynote or some consulting, or however you want them to engage, please share where they should go.
Well, my website's easy. It's barbarabray.net. Everything's there. I'm on Twitter and Instagram, and it's bbray27. I'm on Threads. I'm trying all these new, I really like social media. Some people don't, but I like it. I'm on LinkedIn, Barbara Bray. You can find me. I hope you reach out.
Outstanding. Listen, please don't be selfish. Share this episode with a friend. Barbara dropped a lot of knowledge here. Everything from personalized learning to defining your why, to innovations that she's seen all over the world, all over the country, people who are really doing it the right way and moving education forward in our country and in this world. This is the last episode. Excuse me. Now we got to edit that out. Goodness, we were doing so good. Okay. If you enjoyed this episode, please like it and share it with a friend. Until the next one, remember, you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Global CTE Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to be the first to know about future episodes.